The story begins with Sable, a boy with an ugly appearance, deemed useless by everyone and suffering from amnesia. Inside the academy, he was known as the dumbest student, unable to understand anything. He often stood absent-minded, staring ahead as if searching for something unknown. No matter how hard he trained or how many nights he spent studying magic, his stats remained weak, showing no improvement. The students mocked him endlessly, while he stayed silent and endured it all. In the end, the academy's director decided to send him far away for special training, hoping something might change. Elsewhere, far from watchful eyes, Sable began uncovering hidden truths about the world and fragments of his mysterious past. With every discovery, he realized a greater secret was concealed. Along the way, he met new companions, people unlike him. Gradually, he improved, striving to become a legendary mage acknowledged by all. Back at the Magic Academy, students gathered around a notice board, reading a summon addressed to that useless, ugly fool, Sable. His name stood there like a public humiliation. He remained lost in thought, anticipating his meeting with the famous director, unsure what awaited him. There, he encountered a rude girl named Lu, banging angrily on the door. He approached cautiously, but she insisted he open it so they could enter together. When he refused, she suddenly transformed her staff into a massive axe and used him as a shield. Suddenly, a werewolf named Holdy appeared, his heavy voice and steps echoing as he moved to confront Lu and rescue Sable. Lu claimed she had urgent business with the director and insulted him, angering Holdy, who forcefully knocked her weapon away. The staff landed near Sable. He hesitated before picking it up, making both of them stop and stare at him. But Holdy pushed him toward the door and kicked the staff again, provoking Lu's furious scream as her clan's sacred treasure, Ludens, was disrespected. The door suddenly opened. Sable turned to see the director Albus, calm yet filled with mystery. A single glance from him silenced everyone. Surprised to see Lu, he invited them all inside. In the office, silence settled. Holdy stood by the wall, refusing to give Lu grape juice despite her demands. Albus began speaking to Sable about his level while reviewing his records. She informed him he would undergo special training outside the academy, explaining clearly that staying here would leave him useless no matter how hard he tried. As she calmly sipped tea, she began recounting the history of the church and the War of Witches. She revealed that 10 years ago, an evil mage named 13 spread magical knowledge across the kingdom of Wenius, shaking the world. She praised Sable's understanding of history, then disclosed that she was the one who defeated that mage. She explained that his method needed correction, even if his intentions were noble. Despite its cruelty, that war changed how people viewed magic and witches, making it a hidden blessing. Sable then understood why the academy was founded, and why Albus insisted on gathering those who were different. Suddenly, Lu burst into anger inside the office. Albus calmly ordered Holdy to give her grape juice to calm her down. Then she told Sable about troubling events in the south, where witch hunts were increasing, risking another war. She had established a small village there and wanted to send him as a mage to help stabilize the situation. However, she warned him, if he failed within 3 years, his memories of the academy would be erased as if he had never belonged. Lu interrupted, confidently revealing she had 300 years of experience. She offered to accompany Sable to guide and train him. In return, she wanted to read the Grimoire of Zero, the first magic book in the world, said to hold power capable of destroying it if misused. Albus explained the grimoire was strictly forbidden, but she could arrange a meeting between Lu and its author, the witch Mud Black, instead of granting access to the book. Elsewhere, Sable met Lu near the academy fountain, where water flowed quietly and students passed by. A girl named Hort joined them, carrying massive guns larger than herself, declaring she was heading south as well. Suddenly, Kudo, the lizard man, appeared with 2 unremarkable companions. Lu mocked him, provoking his anger. Yet his tone shifted, speaking sharply while hiding clear concern. Kudo continued calling Sable a fool, advising him to leave the academy instead of wasting time. Hort was bothered by his attitude, pointing out that as a beastman, he should be more empathetic. But Sable calmly replied that he saw no issue, even believing Kudo was kind despite his harshness. As they left the academy, Hort noticed a cloaked man hiding his face, marked by a red scar like an old symbol. He watched them from afar before vanishing into the crowd. Later, while sitting on the ground eating, Hort was shocked to see Lu feeding her staff. Lu explained that Ludens was a witch-devouring staff, absorbing life force from anything it touched, requiring constant feeding. She added that she had formed a pact with it, becoming one entity, allowing her to use it without losing her life. Suddenly, Hort got angry at Sable for eating her meat without noticing, telling him he should have asked first. She warned him not to blame her if he got a stomachache later. Soon after, The group rode an old wagon shaking violently toward the village. The road was long and rough, every bump making Sable clutch his stomach. Motion sickness made the trip exhausting. His face turned pale, sweat forming on his forehead. Hort kept checking on him, asking if he wanted to stop, but he only shook his head. Meanwhile, Lu sat at the front, acting indifferent, though she watched them quietly. As night fell in the forest, darkness swallowed everything. Insects grew louder, and the air turned cold. Hort used light magic, forming a small glowing orb that floated above them, lighting the path. The darkness remained thick, but the light gave them slight comfort. Sable praised her, calling her the Academy's genius who surpassed everyone. She quickly denied it, saying others were far more skilled. What she truly excelled at, she said, was making people smile, and she smiled at him, revealing a softer side. When she asked why he joined the academy, he paused, staring at the light, then admitted he had amnesia, remembering nothing before entering it, not even his former self. Hort's eyes widened in shock. Sable continued, explaining that if he failed the director's mission, all his memories of the academy would be erased, leaving him empty. No past, no present. He spoke calmly, as if accepting it, but his voice carried clear pain. At that moment, Lu suddenly approached with food ingredients and placed them before them. Hort was shocked again when she saw Lu using ludens for cooking. The staff moved like a living being, helping her. Sable then admitted he struggled with magic. Whenever he used it, it either exploded or failed. Lu bluntly told him he might need to give up becoming a mage. Not everyone is meant for that path. She added that losing his memories and starting a quiet life might be better than walking a dangerous road filled with blood and witch hunts. When Ludens finished cooking, Hort asked if this counted as cannibalism since it absorbed life force. Lu snapped at her, telling her to stop imagining such things, insisting it had nothing to do with that. Elsewhere in the forest, far from their light, the masked man spoke to a large man sitting on a tree branch, its weight making it creak. He reported that academy students had entered their territory and split into two groups. When asked who posed the greatest threat, he answered that the lizard beast mage, Kudo, was the most dangerous. The large man dismissed beastmen as mere offerings for witches and decided to start with them to send a message. He jumped down, shaking the earth, then struck it with his hammer, scattering birds in fear. He ordered traps to be set all around, aiming to prove that peace between witches and the church was impossible. Later, at the inn, Hort ate quickly as if starving, while Sable watched her, recalling her words about smiles. Lu calmly explained that mages need proper food to restore their magic. Eating is part of training. Soon the other two arrived in panic, claiming bandits attacked them and that Kudo fled with the map, leaving them behind. Sable doubted their story immediately. Lu noticed their belongings were untouched and questioned why only Kudo was targeted. They said Kudo abandoned them for slowing him down. But Lu quickly saw the inconsistency. Bandits usually kidnap youths, so why take only Kudo? It became clear they weren't bandits, but likely witch hunters. The truth emerged. Kudo had claimed to be the only mage and made himself bait so the others could escape. What seemed like cowardice was actually courage, and the two felt ashamed. Lu swore to rescue Kudo at any cost. Sable and Hort offered to join, but she refused, saying they would only slow her down. Still, Hort refused to stay behind and suggested tracking Lu using the handkerchief she had given Sable earlier. With divination magic, she traced her path, and a faint light appeared, guiding them deeper into the forest. Sable praised Hort's skill, saying he truly relied on her. She grew embarrassed and turned away. But the moment ended when they found Kudo's severed tail on the ground, still fresh with blood. Hort panicked, asking if he was dead, but Sable explained that as a beastman, Kudo could regrow it, so it didn't mean the end. As Hort held the tail, a strange thought crossed her mind, and she quickly snapped out of it. Sable then focused on the ground, noticing 3 clear footprints, 2 from Kudo running, and a third, heavy, unfamiliar one, likely a witch hunter. Hort froze, realizing a single enemy had forced skilled Kudo to flee and cut his own tail to survive. She suggested it might be someone from the Day of Fire group, a witch-hunting faction believed to be gone. She proposed turning back, as what lay ahead was far more dangerous than they expected. At the same time, Kudo was hiding atop a distant tree, breathing heavily as he tried to stop the bleeding, hoping the others were safe and wouldn't return. But despite his sharp senses, he failed to notice a nearby trap. Suddenly, a rope snapped tight, the branch broke beneath him, and he fell straight onto spikes driven into the ground, piercing his legs and forcing out a sharp cry of pain. Back to Sable and Hort, where Hort revealed she had once faced a witch hunter. That encounter brought back memories she tried to forget. Flames rising to the sky, bodies piled like a mountain, and the man walking calmly through smoke. He had asked if she was a witch and threatened to burn her. She lied and ran with all her strength, tears streaming down her face. The memory shattered as Kudo's scream echoed through the forest, filled with pain and rage. Both froze. Once they recognized the source, they exchanged looks. Facing a witch hunter meant near certain death. Fear showed in Hort's eyes, though she tried to stay composed. Sable swallowed hard, heart pounding, yet convinced her they had to help him, no matter the cost. If they left him now, they'd never face it again. Meanwhile, Kudo triggered another trap and slammed into the ground, his body aching, fear rising of the next strike. The witch hunter emerged from the trees, mocking him for falling into simple traps. Moments later, Kudo cast a solar spell, lighting the area and blinding the hunter briefly. He used the chance to escape, stumbling forward, but the hunter was faster, catching him in seconds and striking him with a heavy hammer blow that sent him flying. Kudo coughed blood as he hit a tree trunk and collapsed. The hunter noticed Kudo slowly regenerating and coldly said he'd make a perfect test subject. Kudo's mind flashed back to childhood, trapped in a circus where a clown cut his limbs before an audience and forced him to regrow them for amusement. He had been just a child, unable to understand why. Terrified of reliving that fate, he clung to the tree with all his strength, but the hunter crushed his hand without hesitation. He bit into the wood, trying to hold on, as the hunter approached, raising his hammer to crush his skull. At the last moment, Lu arrived and saved him. She descended lightly from the trees and unleashed Ludens, which transformed into a dark, coiling entity around her body. Terrifying, immense power, but the hunter struck her hard, forcing her back a step. Through his pain, Kudo asked why she was saving him after everything. She answered simply, it was a teacher's duty and she would not let any of her students fall. Moment, silence filled the battlefield. The witch hunter narrowed his eyes, sensing the shift in pressure around Lu. The air itself felt heavier, as if her presence alone was enough to distort it. Lu stepped forward calmly, her gaze sharp and unwavering. Ludens twisted around her like a living shadow, reacting to her will. She warned him. If he continued, she wouldn't hold back. But the hunter only smirked, tightening his grip on the hammer, as if welcoming the challenge. Behind her, Kudo struggled to stay conscious, his vision fading in and out. Yet even in that state, he realized something. Lu wasn't just protecting them, she was holding back for their sake. At the same time, Sable and Hort rushed through the forest, following the echoes of battle. Each step grew heavier, the tension tightening around them. Hort's hands trembled slightly, remembering her past encounter, but she pushed forward anyway. As they drew closer, the sound of impact and magic clashing filled the air. And in that moment, they both understood. They were about to face something far beyond anything they had handled before. The witch hunter's anger flared, and he shattered the tree Lu stood on. At the same instant, Lu unleashed black claws from Ludens, tearing through the surrounding trees, leaving Kudo stunned by her true power. She ordered him to retreat. He wasn't fit to fight, and said she still had control and didn't wish to kill anyone if it ended here. But the hunter sensed Sable and Hort approaching. Smiling, he chose to use them as hostages. He appeared before them without warning, and struck Sable down, leaving him writhing in pain. Calmly, he offered a deal, Ludens in exchange for Sable's life. Lu refused at first, but when the hammer neared Sable's neck, she relented and dropped the staff. The hunter ordered Sable to pick it up using sacred cloth, then commanded Hort to bind Lu. At that moment, the truth surfaced. Hort had been a church spy all along. Once, Hort had horns like Rudolph, a mark of her origin. The church cut them off, claiming to purify her. Over time, she was conditioned to believe her soul was tainted, that she must atone, and that others would hate her if they knew. So she lived with a forced smile, pretending kindness to avoid suspicion. Eventually, she was sent to infiltrate the academy and report back. But as she lived among the students, the academy became the place she truly belonged. Her smile stopped being an act. One quiet night, she thought of confessing everything, hoping for a second chance, to become a real mage and study without fear. When Albus proposed the 3-year mission to help the southern village, Hort accepted immediately, wanting distance from the church. Yet deep down, she knew they still watched her. Then the witch hunter appeared, bringing her worst fear to life, being forced to betray everyone. She had poisoned the food to delay the group slightly, hoping to avoid conflict, but Sable ate it by mistake and got sick. She had expected Kudo's group to face ordinary bandits and handle it easily. She never imagined a real witch hunter would appear and turn everything into a nightmare. Hort fell to her knees, confessing everything, calling herself a traitor unworthy of their trust. Tears flowed freely, yet Sable, bound on the ground, told her it wasn't her fault, that everything was fine. He smiled gently, holding no anger. That smile reached her deeply, giving her the strength to face her past. She grabbed Kudo's severed tail and began drawing magic from its regenerative power. The hunter, now cautious, threw Sable and Ludens apart to separate them. Hort cast a powerful fire spell, but he blocked it effortlessly. Shock hit her. Her desperate attempt meant nothing. As he raised his hammer to strike, she closed her eyes, bracing for the end. Suddenly, Ludens rang beside Sable as if calling him. A faint voice urged him to take it. Lu shouted for him not to touch it, but he apologized. He had always seen himself as useless, yet if this was his last chance, he wouldn't run. He grabbed it. A massive black storm erupted, covering everything. The wind tore the alert apart. His eyes glowed blue, releasing a mysterious power. Voices called his name in the darkness, until everything went black. When he awoke, the world was strangely calm. He saw Hort above him, too close, her face flushed. The moment he opened his eyes, she hugged him tightly. Sable couldn't understand how they were all still alive. Then he felt something soft against him, a strange reward, freezing in confusion. Afterward, Lu scolded Sable harshly for using Ludens like that. He had destroyed everything and nearly killed himself from the magical strain. She didn't stop there. She scolded them all for their recklessness. Kudo argued back, saying he wasn't that careless and had control before the traps. Even Hort was scolded for trying to carry everything alone because of her talent. Then Lu even argued with her own staff, as if jealous of it. Elsewhere, atop a hill at sunset, the sky glowed orange and violet, the air calm. Sable stared at the horizon and quietly asked Lu why he didn't die after using Ludens. She paused, then explained his mana was too vast for Ludens to fully absorb. His magic was like an endless sea. That was why she struggled to control it during the storm. Everyone was shocked, especially Kudo and Hort. The boy they saw as useless actually possessed limitless magic. Lu, with a tone of satisfaction and surprise, said Ludens had finally been satisfied, after 300 years of hunger. After the tense atmosphere, Lu asked Kudo to continue the journey with them. He refused stubbornly, insisting he could rely on himself. But Lu suddenly jumped on him, grabbing his neck and forcing him to come along for his own safety. He struggled and shouted until he finally gave in. He agreed, but only after finding his severed tail to reattach it. At that moment, Hort quietly admitted she had used it as a catalyst for a spell without meaning harm. Kudo grew angry and confused, then bid his tail a sad farewell, like parting with an old companion. That night, Sable sat on a large rock, staring at the star-filled sky, thinking about everything, especially Lu's words about his magic. Hort approached quietly and sat beside him, confessing she didn't understand why everyone accepted her, even though she could be a danger. She couldn't grasp why no one blamed her for her betrayal. Sable reassured her again. It wasn't her fault. People aren't to blame when forced into things they never wanted. His simple words reached her deeply. She slowly removed her hat, leaned closer, and asked him to face her dark secret without fear. She explained she had once been labeled a demon and forced to serve the church to purify her soul. But at the academy, she realized she was simply a beast man, not what the church made her believe. Thanks to Sable's acceptance without judgment, she felt happiness for the first time. Still inexperienced, she was learning how to understand her feelings and be honest with herself. The next morning, guards captured the two traitors, exposing that they had been leaking information to the church for money. Bound before everyone, they faced Kudo's insults as the group sat around a round table. Lu told Kudo he needed to regenerate his arms before continuing, but he explained that regeneration required massive mana he didn't have. Lu suggested using Sable's limitless magic, though it required close direct transfer. Hort immediately objected, blushing, while Lu seemed disappointed that no dramatic development would happen. In the end, Kudo tried on his own. He focused and cast the spell, and his arms regenerated before everyone's eyes. The crowd in the inn cheered in amazement. Sable stood confused, unsure what was happening. Lu explained that being a mage means people will always praise miracles they themselves can't achieve, even if it feels normal to you. They continued their journey as notable mages in the kingdom of Winius, their reputation slowly growing. Eventually, they reached a bustling city filled with people and open markets rich with food aromas. Lu suddenly laughed and said it was time to visit the public bath and clean up before moving on. Later, inside the steamy bath, Sable asked Kudo why he wanted to become a mage. Kudo paused, then said he once dreamed of joining the church's elite beastman forces and mage corps, but he was too weak and rejected, so he chose to train and forge his own path. He dreamed of becoming like the dragon-conquering king who once saved him from the circus, the man who carried him away without fear or disgust. Sable saw him as truly admirable, realizing how Kudo tried to act harsh while hiding his kindness. Before Sable could explain his own reason, Lu suddenly entered without knocking, as if unaware they were bathing. Both were embarrassed, and Kudo accused her of having no manners. They rushed into another room, only to find an even worse situation. Hort was there, frozen in place, face completely red, unable to look anywhere. In seconds, everything turned chaotic. Everyone tried to escape, bumping into each other in confusion. Hort ran off in embarrassment, while Kudo couldn't hide his jealousy. Sable always seemed more comfortable around her than anyone else. After things calmed, Hort joked that she felt like their mother, always fixing their problems. Kudo then asked Lu what she planned to do after reaching the village. She replied that she had truly enjoyed the journey with them more than expected. Her words made them smile, feeling like a real team. Suddenly, a boy named Leos rushed toward them in panic, breathless and pale. He urged them to hide quickly, as if someone was chasing him. Grabbing Lu's hand, he pulled them behind a large tree and cast a quick camouflage spell, concealing them. Lu immediately praised his talent, but in the next moment, a saber-toothed beastman appeared, masked and wielding a massive sword, searching for the boy and threatening to kill another child if he didn't show himself. His voice was heavy and terrifying. He located them by hearing their heartbeats and shattered the barrier in a single strike. They rushed out to save Leos. The boy leapt from the tree, preparing to fight with magic despite his weakness. He warned them they stood no chance, that the enemy could kill them before they even finished casting. Lu shouted at her students to run and save themselves before it became a massacre, but it was clear none of them were willing to abandon the others and flee. When the beastman sensed the balance shifting against him and the fight drifting beyond his mission, he calmly sheathed his heavy sword. His movement alone showed confidence and experience. He explained he was merely a mercenary. He completed assigned tasks and avoided unnecessary battles. Pointless fighting wasn't his concern. His mission was simple: return the boy to the village, nothing more. At that moment, Lu was surprised he knew about Ludens and her students. She stopped him and asked how he knew about them. Her tone was cautious, as if suspecting someone had been watching them. He ignored her completely, gave her a vague look, and told her to return to her students instead of wasting time. Calmly, he added they would meet again. His words only deepened the tension. After that, Leos ran toward a man waiting for him. The moment he arrived, the man embraced him tightly, relief and worry clear. After calming down, he introduced the group to a priest named Shinbu, who wore a cover over one eye. His sharp features and calm voice carried authority. Leos proudly said they were mages. Shinbu introduced himself as the village priest and asked if they were the 3 trainees from the field program. Surprised, they asked how he knew. He lightly mocked them, saying a small village like this notices everything, especially strangers. When they asked about the mercenary beastman, Shinbu cut them off, his tone turning sharp. He told them to follow Leos and not bring up that topic again. He explained that the mercenary was the village's current guardian, and that he didn't want any direct contact between him and Academy mages, as if an old tension or hidden agreement existed. He then explained that the witch responsible for the village had surrendered without resistance, leaving it under a harsh, occupying force. With such a powerful beastman present, no villager could oppose or even complain. The mood grew heavier. Kudo questioned loudly why they were sent at all, if the village didn't need or even want them. At that moment, Sable connected the dots. He realized they were known in the academy as troublesome students, and perhaps Albus had sent them here to get rid of them indirectly. Returning without results could mean expulsion, making all their efforts meaningless. The idea felt harsh, yet logical. As they considered leaving without trouble, Lu suddenly warned them. The priest seemed suspicious. He might have leaked their route to the witch hunter and the church. Her eyes stayed fixed on him. Shinbu didn't deny it. He admitted they had the right to be cautious, then calmly asked why she didn't eliminate him if she truly suspected him. She replied firmly that she hated violence and only used it when forced. She preferred he prove his innocence by showing them the village and its people. Soon after, they met Leos's father, Ol, a kind man weighed down by worry. He thanked them deeply for saving his son and offered them a place to stay. He promised to guide them through the village so they could understand its situation. He explained that the village school cared for orphans, trying to make up for their lost families. Leos added excitedly that the witch who once oversaw them had lived there and treated him kindly. She had even given him a spell that made others accept him, and had placed the camouflage barrier in the forest to protect the children. From another angle, Kudo asked why the witch had left without fighting. Ol had no clear answer. He only knew she vanished suddenly. Lu noticed the village felt unnaturally quiet, a silence more unsettling than comforting. All explained that visitors were rare, and the villagers had grown wary of strangers, even harmless ones. Finally, All led them to their lodging. The house was simple, but its surroundings were unsettling. Straw dolls hung outside, shaped in eerie forms, swaying in the wind as if watching everyone. All reassured them there was nothing to fear. Those dolls were placed to prevent villagers from escaping without permission. As long as they followed the imposed rules, they could live quietly without punishment. That night, as the wind brushed past the hanging dolls, their faint movements cast shifting shadows across the walls. Sable couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that the village was hiding something deeper. Lu remained silent, observing every detail, while Hort stayed alert, still unsure who to trust. Even Kudo, despite his usual bluntness, sensed that this place was far from normal. It became clear to all of them. Their mission here would be far more complicated than they had expected. They entered the house, and suddenly Lu fell silent, as if realizing something important. Then she suggested they shouldn't just observe, but eliminate the witch controlling the village, even confront Albus herself. She felt deceived, used without knowing the full truth. At that moment, she realized meeting Mud Black was impossible, and everything had been part of a larger plan. She swore they would make the Dawn Witch pay. Hort suggested calling the kingdom's army, but Sable refused. An army would turn the village into a battlefield, and the villagers would suffer first. He insisted they were enough if they used his limitless magic with Lu and Ludens. Kudo grabbed him angrily, saying facing such a witch meant death. They weren't ready. Hort tried to calm him, but Sable replied firmly. He'd rather die trying to do what's right than return and be expelled without doing anything. If he failed, his memories would be erased, leaving him empty. His words frightened Hort, tears filling her eyes. Sable tried to ease her, saying she and Kudo could stay behind while he and Lu went alone. She then admitted she was afraid of losing him, that she didn't want him to disappear, but he didn't fully understand her feelings. Lu snapped at him angrily, telling him to leave her alone. Still, he ran after her, calling her name. Later, Hort went to the church to pray and calm herself. The place was quiet, candlelight flickering on the walls. There she found a girl named Lily crying in a corner. She approached to comfort her, but the priest entered suddenly and interrupted. Elsewhere, Lu prepared herbal tea. Kudo asked if they had any chance of winning. She handed him a cup and said she hated bad endings, that the three of them were her happiness, and she would even die to protect her students. Kudo felt guilty, thinking he might be the only one afraid of death. Back in the church, Lily ran out. Hort asked the priest not to shout at her, saying she was only helping. He replied coldly that one who can't help themselves can't help others. Then he revealed his staff, bearing the mark of the Day of Fire. Hort realized he was a witch hunter. She tried to step back, but threads shot out behind her, binding her completely. The trap had been set for her. Before she could scream, the priest turned his staff into a scythe and ordered her to be silent. By sunset, Hort was still missing. Lu suggested tracking her with magic, leading them to a cave. Inside, they saw blood on the ground and stopped. Kudo said it was a trap and suggested retreating, but Lu insisted Ludens could help them avoid it. Still, Kudo chose to leave, saying he'd rather be expelled than die meaninglessly. Lu blamed herself for not pushing him harder. Outside the cave, the mercenary warrior waited for him, offering to take him in and teach him magic. Inside, Sable tried to create a small light, but released a massive glow that startled Lu and knocked her down. He apologized, and they continued searching for Kudo. Outside, the warrior told Kudo he could bring him into the army, but only through a blood contract with a witch. Kudo remembered the blood in the cave and asked about Hort. The warrior replied coldly that she was already dealt with. Rage erupted within Kudo, a new power awakening as he stood ready to fight. At that moment, Lu asked Sable if he was ready to save Hort even if she didn't want it. He answered immediately. She was precious to him. Lu smiled. Then he added he would save Lu too because she was precious as well. She smiled softly, calling his words kind. Suddenly, thick vines burst out, grabbing Sable and dragging him away. Lu tried to follow, but Shinbu appeared before her, snatched Ludens and struck her down. Then he threw them into a cell and slammed the door shut. As they looked ahead, they saw a white-haired woman, overflowing with magical power, smiling at them. The moment Sable saw her, he felt she was the same woman who once protected him from the rain. She reached out and said she had been waiting for him for a long time, but Lu immediately warned him not to trust her. The woman grew annoyed at Lu, pushed her aside with contempt, and declared she hated her. Then she turned to Sable, telling him he was special and should abandon the parasites he called friends. She threw Hort's blood-stained hat to the ground, claiming the mercenary had killed her, and revealed she had done everything to take him back from Albus, even taking control of the village for his sake. Sable felt everything was his fault. Seeing Lu unconscious, guilt overwhelmed him. But the witch kept insisting he belonged to a world worthy of his power. He grew angry, silenced her, and said this world had given him something precious. Hort who cared for him, Kudo who taught him courage, and Lu who protected him. Those memories meant more than any power. His words stirred Lu. She suddenly woke, drew Sable's mana with a kiss, and cast a fire dragon spell. But the witch erased it with a touch, revealing it came from the grimoire of Zero, and that she herself was its author. Mud Black Zero. Lu froze in shock, while Sable understood Albus's words. He stepped in front of Lu to protect her, but the spell suddenly turned into colored pages drifting in the air. Zero approached him, revealing she was the supervisor of the field training test, and that he had passed. Lu collapsed in relief. In 300 years, she had never seen such a test. At that moment, Hort appeared and hugged him, saying if he had accepted Zero's earlier offer, he would have failed. She explained the villagers, even the priest, were part of the test, and her own test was to hold on to her principles, which she did. The priest entered and lightly struck her, confirming everything had been a test, then asked Lu how she figured it out. She answered that the house was too clean and prepared despite being abandoned for 2 years. It was clearly staged. Soon the mercenary arrived with Kudo and declared he had passed as well. Kudo rushed to embrace them, especially after worrying about Hort, which had driven him to fight. That same night, a letter from Zero reached Albus. She was delighted, announcing 3 students had passed, though angered by the witch hunter's interference, and placed a reward for capturing him. The villagers celebrated them, and Zero praised their success despite the harsh conditions. When asked about the difficulty, she explained she wanted to test their morals and how they used their power. She then revealed their potential. Hort could defeat armies, Kudo could become nearly immortal, and Sable possessed limitless magic. The 3 were stunned. After that, she explained their next phase. Each would start a personal project to serve the village. They hesitated choosing, until the mercenary interrupted and offered food. Kudo hesitated, then relaxed and began eating. Elsewhere, Hort asked about Lily, and the priest revealed Lily was actually a woman in her 20s who disliked crowds. Sable asked Zero if she was the one who brought him to the academy. She replied his memories would return in time. Later, while walking, Kudo grew excited seeing a dragon in the sky. He followed it and discovered it was his old savior, the dragon-conquering king, Heath. It seemed he and Zero shared a past. Heath handed them messages, confirmed he remembered Kudo, and encouraged him, giving him new motivation. At that moment, Lu expressed her desire to see and ride a dragon. Then she reassured them she would stay until she finished reading the village's library, even if it took 3 years. She encouraged their growth, saying watching them improve was her true joy. They hugged her happily. Later, Zero asked Lu why she stayed. Lu said she noticed Sable's magic was being drained. Zero revealed Sable was born with that power, and a witch killed his mother before him trying to steal it, forcing him to seal his memories. He later lived as a slave until Zero found him, resealed his memories, and sent him to the academy to start over. Lu was disturbed by how his memories were handled. When she asked why, Zero revealed the truth. Sable was her niece's son, and his father was the mage, 13. 2 months later, they began new lives. Hort worked as a service mage, Kudo in a clinic, and Sable ran a magic shop. One quiet morning, Hort asked him to restore her energy. He held her hand and transferred mana until she nearly collapsed, stopping immediately. Then came Kudo's turn. Afterward, they left for work. Lu arrived with fresh bread, and they sat eating breakfast. She teased Sable for being withdrawn, saying he only moved when asked, like a girl waiting for a dance invitation. He replied calmly that staying put made him useful, always ready to support others and take care of the home. Lu asked Sable if he also washed Hort's clothes. He admitted he even washed her undergarments. Lu shouted in embarrassment, telling him to stop, as it might embarrass Hort and make him seem like a pervert. Sable imagined himself as someone suspicious and grew worried Hort might see him that way. Lu reassured him she didn't, she actually liked him. But he wasn't convinced. She explained that people want to appear their best to those they care about, and his actions might embarrass her unintentionally. Sable understood and apologized, yet felt he didn't know how to care for others properly. Lu remembered his past as a slave, hugged him, and told him he was doing well. Then they continued breakfast. After that, she asked him to go gather herbs. He left immediately, and asked Leos to guide him, and they entered the forest together. Sable asked if he was sure of the way. Leos got upset, thinking he was being doubted. He climbed a tree, then admitted he had been pretending to know and had gotten them lost. Sable reassured him and suggested finding their way back together. Soon, they saw a mouse. Leos said it was Lily's magic, so they followed it. A group of mice guided them until they reached the church, where Leos's mother was waiting. Her worry turned into anger as she grabbed him, scolding him while dragging him away. At that moment, the priest welcomed Sable, surrounded by a faint red aura, and invited him inside. There, Sable met Lily, who seemed shy and afraid of scaring him. Suddenly, the priest revealed her truth. She was just a small, gentle mouse. He ordered her to cook. When Sable asked why the priest didn't cook, Lily said his food was terrible. The priest agreed, so she cooked, and the meal was excellent. Afterward, the priest scolded Sable for entering a dangerous part of the forest without knowledge and advised him to learn more about the village instead of isolating himself. Outside, Sable met Hort and told her Lily's food was great. She wiped food from his face, but he noticed blood on her sleeve. She said it wasn't hers, it was the mercenaries'. While walking through the forest, wolves attacked them. Hort tried casting a spell. The mercenary protected her, but she missed and hit him instead. Hort broke down in guilt, crying intensely, until Lily came and hugged her, calming her down. Then Lu appeared, ordering Sable to come inside immediately to supply mana. The mercenary was bleeding, and Zero had exhausted her energy treating him. Sable rushed in. Zero kissed him to draw his mana, then used magic to heal the mercenary. Once recovered, he asked if the kiss was necessary, and Zero laughed at his jealousy. In the end, Sable asked if Hort would be expelled because of what happened. The mercenary replied he wasn't angry. He only wanted to teach her the true meaning of combat and the weight of responsibility between life and death. After that, a quiet silence settled over them. Hort wiped her tears, still shaken, while Sable stood beside her, unsure how to comfort her, but refusing to leave her alone. Kudo crossed his arms, clearly bothered, yet stayed close without saying a word. The mercenary slowly stood, testing his restored body, then looked at them all with a calmer expression. He didn't praise them directly, but his tone softened. What mattered wasn't perfection, but learning to stand again after failure. Hort took a deep breath, nodding slightly, as if she had accepted that lesson. Sable glanced at her, realizing that even small moments like this were shaping them into something stronger. And though the danger had passed for now, it was clear to all of them. This was only the beginning of what they still had to face. The elders began discussing Sable's withdrawn nature, fearing it might slow his magical growth, but Zero disagreed, saying he should take his time and not rush like Hort and Kudo. The mercenary praised him as a strong mana source, while Lu objected with enthusiasm, saying she wanted them to become a force capable of shaking the world. Elsewhere, Albus ordered Holdy to inspect the village. He assured her he would carry out the task faithfully and would not judge Sable for his father's sins. Meanwhile, Lu noticed the mercenary's clothes in Zero's house and realized he stayed there often. She teased about a possible relationship, but Zero ignored it and asked what she wanted. Lu returned to the topic of mana transfer, asking why she had only absorbed a small amount. Zero admitted it felt awkward and that she didn't want to exploit her nephew. Lu reminded her that witches could die without enough magic, but Zero calmly replied that death comes to everyone, and she would accept it if she could live with those she loved. Lu looked at her with quiet admiration. Elsewhere, Holdy rode on a wagon, recalling his escape with Albus when she was young, during a witch hunt where her grandmother was killed. That day, Albus swore to take revenge on the mage 13. Now, Holdy sat with a witch hunter, who asked what he planned to do with him. Back in the village, Sable went to Leos and asked if he wanted to play. At the same time, Kudo woke from a nightmare. He remembered trying to heal a disease in a poor village, promising to help, but exhausting his mana and collapsing before finishing. He came down to find Hort and Sable drinking hot milk. Hort explained what had happened, and he felt ashamed for failing his promise. Sable tried to lighten the mood, saying he missed Lily's delicious food. Kudo asked why Lily cooked instead of the mercenary, and Hort recalled how she had accidentally injured him, leaving him unable to cook. When he asked if she had killed him, she denied it, then scolded him for criticizing her despite talking more than acting. Kudo got angry, but Lu entered and ordered silence. She then scolded them all. Hort for carelessness, Kudo for recklessness, and Sable for staying isolated instead of improving his magic. She gave them a day off, then ordered them to meet Zero the next day for training. Kudo was surprised by Sable's calmness, but Lu told him to leave him alone. At that moment, Hort jumped onto Kudo's back to punish him. He complained about her weight, but she kept pressing until he nearly collapsed, while Sable watched quietly, a faint smile forming for the first time in a while. The next day, Lu bid them farewell with a small smile. Hort joked that she felt like a mother. They headed to Zero's library, where she told them about the forbidden library in the north, where most books were sealed inside a tall tower. Hort grew excited and asked about those books, saying she wanted to visit someday. Sable agreed immediately. Kudo mocked her, reminding her she couldn't control her magic well, and admitted his own mana was limited, while the place was guarded by powerful monsters. But Zero reassured them she would train them until they could rely on themselves. Then she took Hort aside for training, leaving Sable alone with the shelves. He ran his fingers across the books, unsure where to begin, but for the first time, he didn't feel completely lost, and in that quiet moment, surrounded by knowledge and possibility, it became clear this was the beginning of a different path for him, one he would have to walk on his own. Hort tried casting a fire spell, but missed and hit Zero instead. Still, Zero praised her effort, then redirected the same fire back at her with perfect control without harm, stressing that reaching her level required constant training. Moments later, however, she collapsed from mana exhaustion. They rushed to her. Sable carried her and asked Hort and Kudo to bring food while he supported her with his magic. As he did, he noticed her eyes resembled his and asked if she knew his mother. She denied it, but said she knew his father. She explained his father wrote the book he had found and was extremely talented. Sable read it and admired his knowledge, then said he was the opposite. He saw himself as useless. Zero laughed softly and told him he would reach that level one day. At that moment, the mercenary entered with food, and Zero quickly began recovering. Later, Sable went with Leos into the forest, teaching him about plants and fungi. Leos praised him, saying he wanted to be like him, which encouraged Sable. They reached a garden full of red flowers and celebrated like young adventurers, until a spherical, spiked creature suddenly appeared. Sable shouted a warning, but it was too late. The creature fired its spikes, hitting Leos and knocking him down. Sable carried him and ran through the forest as both bled, blaming himself for being unable to even cast a healing spell, calling out Lu's name in despair. Suddenly, Ludens appeared in a bird-like form and guided them out of the forest until they reached Zero and the mercenary. Zero realized Leos had lost too much blood. Lu arrived, cut her wrist, and gave him her blood, while Zero immediately began healing him. Afterward, Zero and Lu rested in the clinic under Kudo's care. Sable sat crying, blaming himself, but Kudo told him to pull himself together and he wiped his tears. When Leos recovered, he proudly told the villagers that Sable had saved him, even claiming he defeated the creature himself. His father calmed him, though clearly relieved. Lu explained the creature was called Touch Me Not, an ancient being that drains blood through its spikes. Zero added such creatures only appear in the north, so its presence meant someone had brought it deliberately. The mercenary went to investigate and encountered Holdy, mocking him slightly, before they all gathered in the church to plan. The priest and Lily would gather information, while the mercenary would warn nearby villages. Zero insisted on going with him, and he agreed despite concern. Holdy was told to stay and protect the village, and he responded with a quiet, unreadable look. At the same time, the priest and Lily moved through the forest, unaware that a witch hunter was watching them from the shadows. Later, Holdy announced he had come to monitor the program's progress, but in truth, he was assigned to test the 3 students. Their new task was to protect the village alone and prove themselves. Hort tried to ask a question, but he ignored her. Sable provoked him, and he angrily threw them out. Then he entered to check on Lu. She asked his real reason for being there, suspecting he was connected to the spiked creature. He denied it, calling it coincidence, and firmly stated his loyalty to Albus, swearing he would never harm her dream of this village. Holdy asked Lu to destroy the spiked monster, trusting her as the Dawn Witch, and promised to convince Albus to grant her the Grimoire of Zero. She was thrilled. Later, Sable asked Hort and Kudo to teach him magic. They agreed, but Lu ordered them to rest. At the same time, Holdy secretly freed the witch hunter. During training, Hort asked Sable to supply her with mana. He hesitated, then agreed, making her blush. Holdy suddenly appeared, made an awkward joke, and embarrassed himself before leaving. Elsewhere, all warned Sable to stay away from Leos, but Sable refused, insisting he would grow stronger to protect him. Suddenly, the witch hunter attacked, choked Sable unconscious, and took him. As this happened, Sable recalled his past, his mother's death, and a failed attempt to steal his power. Hort and Kudo chased him, while Lu was elsewhere destroying spiked monsters with Ludens and saving an injured man. In battle, Kudo wounded himself to fuel Hort's spell, but the witch hunter blocked it. Sable then grabbed him and threatened to detonate him with his magic. Back in the village, Lu returned and discovered Holdy had orchestrated the situation using the witch hunter as a test. The fight escalated. The hunter broke Sable's arms and overwhelmed them until the priest intervened, severed his arm, and defeated him. When Zero and the others arrived, Holdy revealed the deal. Return a student in exchange for canceling the hunter's execution. Lu called it reckless, but after the students proved themselves, Holdy admitted fault and apologized. They then discussed the village's weak defenses. Holdy suggested using the witch hunter as a guard. Hort strongly refused, but after debate, agreed on the condition she would personally monitor him. Lu hugged her proudly, and Holdy later left alone. Afterward, Sable told Hort she was special to him. She clarified it was only friendship and asked who he thought of when he almost died. He realized it was Lu, became flustered, and left, while Hort stayed behind, quietly hurt. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the forest. Zero admitted she had caused a past war. Sable asked her to train him, and she accepted. Meanwhile, the captured boy tried to attack Lu, but she restrained him with Ludens. Kudo suspected he was a church spy. Soon, Hearth appeared, hinting at a past connection with the witch hunter. Lu revealed the church had sent the boy to test the village's defenses, angering Kudo. In the end, the witch hunter claimed he only cared about killing, but Hort corrected him, saying his role now was to protect. Hearth tried to show him a different life, and when he nearly attacked her, Lu stopped him, forcing him to back down. It was revealed that the boy was a church spy. He was the one who released the spiked sphere monster, which caused his injury. Later, they saw the witch hunter calmly teaching children how to make fishing nets. The sight felt strange, the same terrifying man now gentle. Leos suggested going to the river. Hearth agreed, and Hort joined to keep an eye on him. The children nervously asked if he might kill them, but he reassured them. That eased Hort slightly, as if he was truly changing. At the same time, Kudo received a message from Lily through a mouse and called the boy. The boy said he didn't fear death, believing it served his mission to eliminate witches. Kudo got angry and accused him of hatred. The boy quickly backed down, afraid of rejection, and said he would change. Kudo told him to follow if he meant it. Fragments of the boy's past surfaced. His harsh childhood, and the church shaping him into a killer. He had fought and killed from a young age without understanding. Hort admitted she too had betrayed the church by standing with witches. She said trust comes step by step. She still didn't fully trust the tyrant, but believed he was trying. She warned the boy to promise not to harm anyone, or they would stop him. His stomach suddenly growled, breaking the tension, and they laughed, deciding to go fishing. At the river, Lu tested something new, using Ludens to absorb natural energy, restoring magic quickly. Sable worried it might be dangerous, but still thanked her and wanted to try more. She praised him, but told him not to push himself too far. In a quiet moment, Sable confessed again. He loved her. This time, it was direct. Lu froze, said nothing, and walked away, unsure how to respond. Elsewhere, the tyrant drifted into his past, used by a knight to hunt witches and kill innocents until his team died, leaving him alone. The priest later captured him and brought him into the Day of Fire, where he became what he is now. He returned to the present when Leos happily showed a fish. The tyrant suggested using traps, but the children refused, wanting to learn with their own hands. Suddenly, the boy transformed. His body twisted, a mouth opened from his stomach, and he attacked. The tyrant kicked him away but lost an arm to his tendrils, then saved Hearth first without hesitation. Hort's sleep spell failed. The boy had already lost control. The tyrant refused to retreat and held him off to give her a chance, enduring the attacks, but was badly injured. Hort then unleashed a strong fire spell, burning the creature completely. Kudo rushed in, healed the tyrant, and restored his limbs. But then small insect-like creatures began emerging from the body. The tyrant told them to run, but they refused to leave him behind. Sensing danger, he shouted for them to get down and threw himself over them to shield them. At that moment, Lu arrived and used Ludens to devour all the insects instantly, saving everyone. Afterward, they stood in silence at the boy's grave. Hort blamed herself. Sable regretted not being there, but Kudo said the truth. The boy had been lost long before the monster took over. He added they needed to learn to fight on their own, not rely only on Sable's magic. A heavy silence lingered after his words. Hort lowered her head, gripping her hands tightly, while Sable stared at the ground, thinking deeply. Even Kudo, despite his harsh tone, remained still, as if carrying the same weight. In that moment, they all understood something clearly. From now on, they couldn't afford to hesitate again. Sable encouraged Hort to train harder. She agreed instantly, eyes filled with determination, as if she had finally made up her mind. But the moment broke when a massive dragon tore through the sky at terrifying speed. Kudo's eyes lit up. He recognized it immediately as the dragon-conquering king, Heath. Without hesitation, they rushed to the village, where Heath had already arrived, clearly searching for them. He ordered them to return to the kingdom at once, warning that the village would soon become a battlefield. An anti-witch army was on its way. The news hit hard. They ran to Zero, begging to stay and fight, insisting every hand could matter. Zero refused firmly, reminding them they lacked war experience, and disobeying meant expulsion. Then Sable stepped in calmly, saying this wouldn't be a battle of strength, but endurance. Victory would go to the smartest, not the strongest. Zero looked at him skeptically and asked for his plan. He revealed it. Magical traps. One trap could stop 10, 100 could halt thousands, without killing them. That way, they could prove witches weren't enemies and possibly prevent future war. Zero paused, impressed, but pointed out the lack of mana. Sable then surprised them with a potion that instantly restores magic. Everyone was stunned. Zero called it revolutionary and said if it worked, they would graduate immediately. At that moment, Lu arrived, heard the plan, and smiled, praising it as the fastest way for them to grow. She even asked Zero to let them fight, admitting she had grown attached to the village. Zero hesitated, but when Lu threw a childish fit, she finally gave in and sent a message to Albus. The students cheered. Lu, full of confidence, declared they would force their enemies to admit defeat, laughing as if the battle had already begun. Elsewhere, Albus smiled as she read the plan, impressed by the idea of repelling an army without bloodshed. She decided to send support, as if preparing to watch a grand show. In a distant field, the tyrant sat alone, holding a folded palm leaf. The priest approached, praising him for protecting the children and noting the compassion within him. The tyrant brushed it off, calling himself just a tool. He picked up his hammer and headed toward the orphanage to meet Hearth, while the priest smiled quietly, satisfied with his change. Meanwhile, Hort tested Sable's potion. The moment her mana returned, she was filled with excitement. Then Sable revealed the truth. His father was the infamous mage 13. Kudo and Hort froze in shock. He explained his father's writings helped him create the potion. Kudo, half jealous, grabbed him playfully, calling him Chosen One, while Hort looked at him with pride. They began preparing more potions, and for the first time, Sable felt truly valued. At the orphanage, children offered the tyrant biscuits and tea to thank him. He looked awkward, unused to kindness. Hearth laughed and fed him a biscuit herself. Later, while washing dishes, she noticed he was distracted. When she asked, he avoided answering. She gently held his face, confessed she liked him, and asked him to admit his feelings. He froze, then silently walked away toward the tavern. At the same time, Hort was eating when the tyrant approached. She thanked him for protecting the children and Hearth, then suddenly asked, what if he were ordered to kill them? He answered coldly that he was just a tool. Even if he felt something, he would obey. Hort smiled faintly, saying she was joking, but warned him, growing attached would only deepen his guilt. That would be his real punishment. She left him there. He stood alone, staring at his hands, imagining them covered in blood. He realized his suffering had only just begun. Meanwhile, the village turned into a hive of activity. Everyone worked day and night building defenses under Sable's lead. Still, one of them worried, hoping the enemy wouldn't be too strong. Then the priest revealed the truth. The enemy wasn't a trained army, but 10,000 ordinary villagers who hated witches. Lu was shocked by the number and feared killing them would damage their reputation. The priest hinted that was the enemy's goal from the start. At that moment, Lily rushed in excitedly holding a knife, wanting to fight. The priest ordered her to step back, but she refused, insisting she was capable. One of the others admired her courage, while Lu grabbed Lily and started doting on her, angering the priest. He lifted Lu and pulled her away. The others mocked him, and Lily shouted at them all to be quiet. After that, Lu revealed a far more dangerous truth. The locust monster wasn't random. It was part of a plague spread by the church itself, turning humans into mindless creatures that hunt witches. Silence fell. The priest asked if the church even had a cure. Lu decided immediately. She would infiltrate the cathedral herself to find the traitor and the cure, no matter the cost. Elsewhere, Hold'em confronted the knight leader, asking for soldiers. His plan wasn't just defense. He wanted to recruit retreating enemies and turn them into allies. After a pause, the leader agreed and asked how many he needed. Far away, a messenger bird carried news to a saint named Rhea. She smirked, saying Zero alone could wipe out the army. The bird hinted at their past connection. Rhea quickly wrote to Torres, the ruler, and sent the message. Meanwhile, Torres spoke with Albus, praising her strategy but revealing alarming news. The northern nobles had been attacked and infected. Worse, extremists used their bodies to spread the plague. He handed her a vial, warning the attack had begun. Albus admitted they might have underestimated the enemy. After receiving Rhea's message, Albus ordered the mage commander to be summoned. He hesitated, then agreed. She told Torres to gather witnesses and declared she would return to the academy to inform Zero. Back in the village, Leos and Ol prepared to leave. Leos admitted he wished to stay and fight, but couldn't. Sable knelt and promised to protect the village until peace returned. Leos smiled and wished him victory. After preparations, everyone gathered to review the plan. The polar bear warned the enemy aimed to kill them, and lethal force might be unavoidable. Sable then shared his mana with Zero. An overwhelming surge flowed between them. Shocked, she called him the Mage of the Abyss. Hort looked at him proudly, while Kudo, slightly jealous, hit him lightly. Soon, the enemy army appeared. At the front stood a beast fallen radiating dark energy. Lu calmly observed, climbed a tree, and prepared for battle. The enemy entered the forest, boasting about rewards for killing witches, until radicoid creatures descended, forcing them back in fear. Elsewhere, another group fell into a brutal trap. Lily watched with a dark smile as limbs were severed. Then a healing rain restored them instantly. Shocked, the soldiers noticed a warning carved into the trees, ordering them to retreat. Another unit was trapped in flames, but the fire burned only their armor, leaving them alive. Humiliated, their leader ordered retreat and even thanked the witches, but the real threat remained. A group of Beastfallen, led by a demon wielding a massive axe, advanced toward the village. Zero explained the students had forced 10,000 human soldiers to retreat without killing them. They celebrated, but she quickly warned them, the real battle had just begun. The Beastfallen would not retreat. Suddenly, the polar bear and the priest noticed Lily was missing. They rushed to find her and discovered her trapped in a net, surrounded by Beastfallen discussing eating her to break morale. Before they could act, chaos erupted. The creatures were torn apart instantly. Limbs flew as Lily stood smiling strangely. The demon tried to grab her, but the priest appeared and cut off his arm, saving her. Lily stared at the remains with curiosity, wondering if severed limbs were the secret to her cooking. But the shock came quickly. The demon's arm began regenerating. The polar bear charged, cutting enemies down, but the fallen bodies started moving again. The dead were rising. The priest ordered Lily to hide, then stood beside the bear, both ready to face an army of the living and the dead. The Beastfallen army charged the village, but their momentum ended instantly as they fell into trap pits, impaled like helpless prey. The tyrant laughed mockingly, then leapt over the wall and crushed them with his hammer. Their leader ordered another attack, but the moment bright lights appeared in the sky, his tone shifted to fear, and he told them to take cover. In an instant, Sable, Hort, and Kudo unleashed their magic. A storm of glowing shots flooded the battlefield with light. Still, Hort was frustrated that few were hit, while Kudo angrily explained these were trained warriors who knew how to use terrain as cover. 3 Beastfallen rushed forward, but the tyrant released strange tendrils from a vial, subduing them instantly. Then a massive boar-like creature charged, but Sable stood firm and severed its arm in a single decisive strike, shocking both Hort and Kudo. However, Hort lost control and unleashed a massive explosion that scorched the battlefield. Realizing her mistake, Kudo rushed to heal the wounded. They weren't meant to kill. At that moment, Zero declared victory and called for surrender, but the ground suddenly shook as the polar bear and a demon broke through the wall. The demon grabbed the bear, but the bear retaliated fiercely, tearing off its arm and stabbing it. Realizing it kept regenerating, he called for Zero. Zero raised her hand and began chanting. The sky turned an eerie green, and a pillar of light erupted. Everyone froze. Then ghouls rose from the ground, forming a mountain of corpses, devouring the demon completely and stopping its regeneration. Hort trembled, asking if that was truly magic. Zero calmly replied that walking a dark path grants power capable of destroying the world. She only wanted them to see it. The sky returned to normal, and she told them to understand their power and choose wisely. At the forest's edge, Albus and Torres watched with admiration. Torres joked about repeating such a test yearly, but Albus refused, noting the cost of gathering nobles. Suddenly, strange creatures attacked. Albus ordered Amanir to protect the nobles, while the centaur Raoul noticed something unnatural. Amanir's flames had no effect, and the creatures advanced. Panic spread. Some nobles fell, while Albus and Holdy protected the bishops. The High Bishop gathered everyone under a barrier, claiming witches were behind the attack and urging Torres to join. But Albus questioned him. How could he create a barrier suited to unknown creatures? He froze, realizing his mistake. She exposed him. The barrier proved he had summoned them. Suspicion turned into accusations. As the creatures approached, the barrier collapsed, and fear twisted his face. Then, everything vanished. It was an illusion. Lu appeared, dispelling it and confirming no one was harmed. It had all been a test to expose the traitor. Torres nearly collapsed in relief. Lu revealed the bishop planned to spread the plague and blame witches. She showed him a sphere containing the locust creature and coldly forced him to consume it as punishment when he refused. Afterward, the news spread. Witches had repelled 10,000 enemies without a single casualty. Albus praised the students, declared the program a success, and granted them graduation. Hort doubted if it was another test, but Albus apologized and said she had already arranged work for them. They returned to the village to say goodbye to Zero. Sable told her the book contained a hidden message from his father meant for her as his sister. She was moved but insisted Sable keep it. It now belonged to the family. Sable tried to fix things before leaving, awkwardly, while Kudo and Hort were embarrassed. Zero simply smiled, tapped his forehead, and told them to take care. The entire village came to see them off. Even the tyrant, hiding his feelings. Lily gave Kudo food and hugged him. He cried, seeing her like a mother. The priest yelled at them to move, pushing them onward. Sable promised Leos they would meet again as great adventurers. They departed in a dragon-drawn carriage, with Kudo reminding them of their next mission, the Forbidden Library in the north. Sable reassured them that together they could overcome anything, then suddenly confessed his affection, leaving them flustered as he tried to explain. In a quiet moment, he stood by the window, holding Lu's handkerchief, wishing to see her again. Far away, Lu smiled proudly, watching her students grow, ready for whatever came next. And here the story comes to an end, my friend. We hope you enjoyed it and had a great time watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, let us know in the comments. Before you close the video, don't forget to hit the like button to support us, subscribe for more content, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new anime recaps. Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.